Greetings and welcome to Union Street Hoops, a podcast dedicated to Valparaiso basketball and the Missouri Valley Conference. I am your host, Paul Oren. You can find me on Twitter at NWI Oren. You can find Union Street Hoops on Spotify, SoundCloud, ApplePods, Google Pods, and as always at NWI.com. Thrilled to have you here for what I think is going to be a very, very powerful episode of Union Street Hoops. Zion Morgan is going to join us a little bit later on in the podcast. And let me tell you that it was a thrill to talk to Zion. I think he's going to bring some things to light that maybe we don't think about all the time when we think about the machine that is college basketball. And I just really think it's going to be a powerful interview. So looking forward to you guys hearing that, and I'll get out of the way as soon as possible so we can get to Zion Morgan. Obviously, a lot has happened in the since I've last been on Union Street Hoops. Life has just kind of been throwing curveballs left and right. And so the urge to sit down and walk through every single thing on a podcast just hasn't really been there. And I'm hoping that maybe as things begin to normalize a little bit, that I will also begin to normalize a little bit. But certainly there's been no shortage of news concerning Valpo basketball. A lot of players on their way out. Donovan Clay to Missouri State, Daniel Sackey to New Orleans, Malik McMillan to Western Michigan, Nick Robinson to Western Carolina, Stephen Helm went to Indiana Tech. Kind of the jaw dropper, Jacob Ognacevic leaves the program to go to Lipscomb. Sigurd Lorang doesn't have a landing spot yet. Good news, Pagale also does not have a landing spot. Good news, just a recent departure from the program, as well as Zion Morgan has decided not to come back next year. And obviously, we're going to get into Zion here in a little bit, and he'll talk all about that. Obviously, when the old leaves, the new comes in, and Valpo, from on paper, seems to have won the transfer battle just in given where they're getting players from. Trevor Anderson and Joe Hedstrom, both coming from Wisconsin. Thomas Kithier coming from Michigan State. And then a very interesting one, Kevion Taylor from Winona State, kind of a stud at Winona State, is now coming in here. Best friends growing up, I think, with Tyler Hero, the Miami Heat player who single-handedly broke the hearts of my Milwaukee Bucks last year, and both grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They joined the freshman class of Darius Diavario, I think is how you say it, Cam Palesi, Trey Woodyard, and Keandre Young, and they've got in addition a walk-on, Preston Ruinger, who is another Wisconsin guys left and right. And Valpo does have one more open scholarship that I think it'll be fascinating to see what they do with it. If there's a player out there they think can make a difference, I think they'll go get that player. If not, I think they'll hold on to it and really kind of see what the future holds. I think, if anything, what we've learned is that having 17 guys on the roster and only one basketball means that it can be quite difficult to kind of placate everybody. And I think that will be a big question mark as to where the playing time comes from. When you look at next year's roster, obviously you're bringing back Aaron Gordon, who is going to be a sixth-year senior. Sheldon Edwards is going to be, I read somewhere the other day that someone thought that Sheldon Edwards might not start next year. Sheldon Edwards will start every game of the season next year, in my opinion. Sheldon Edwards has taken big leaps and bounds already in the offseason. He looks like he will be the focal point, center point of the offense next year, maybe as that primary scorer now that's shaken off some of that freshman rust a little bit. They brought him in to score. I think you're going to see that a lot. I think he's going to be the one who's going to see the bulk of the offensive opportunities. But that's also to say that I think Valpo will have a pretty solid roster around Sheldon, especially you throw in Trevor Anderson, who I imagine will come in and start at point guard, and I would think Trevor Anderson's going to play a lot of minutes. Thomas Kithier, I imagine, is also going to start. I would think that he will play a lot of minutes as well. Ben Krikke going to start, no question. Connor Barrett, also right there as a guy who can get a lot of minutes, and obviously Connor Barrett was in the starting lineup more so than any of the other freshmen this year. And then you've got Emil Friis-Villian, a guy who you hope can provide you some depth in the big man position where Kithier will play, as well as Joe Hedstrom will come in. They don't grow 7-footers on trees, and I think he's going to play a big role there. Obviously, the freshman Keandre Young looks to be a steal, and I'd imagine he's going to get a lot of playing time, maybe akin to what you saw from Sheldon Edwards last year. And then maybe Woodyard will get some minutes, and Kevion Taylor as well. This is going to be a loaded group joining a Missouri Valley Conference that's going to be absolutely loaded. Valpo has taken some big strides in the offseason, I think. That's not to say, and I think you're going to hear from Zion Morgan in a little bit. Some guys left, and why did they leave? Is the grass greener on the other side? And the guys that are coming into Valpo, do they think the grass is greener on the other side? Now, Zion's going to approach this from a much different perspective than just on-court basketball, but I'm fascinated to see what the on-court product for Valpo looks like next year. So from a pure basketball standpoint, did Valpo get better? That's a fair question. Now, from a standpoint of guys who've been in the system, two years of hard work and coaching gone into the development of Donovan Clay, 3 years into the hard work and the coaching of Daniel Sackey, 4 years into Malik McMillan, a couple other years into Nick Robinson and Zion Morgan and whatnot. Now you kind of go back to the drawing board if you're the coaching staff. You're bringing in 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 new guys, not to mention what could be a 10th if they fill that other scholarship. And you're going to bring that in to a group that scholarship players has Aaron Gordon, Emil, Sheldon Edwards, Ben Crickey, and Connor Barrett. 5 scholarship players remaining, and 3 walk-ons, Tyler, Luke, and Brock. And it's going to be an interesting year for Valpo. You look at Northern Iowa bringing a ton of players back, Loyola bringing a ton of players back, Drake bringing a ton of players back. The conference is going to be loaded. Missouri State bringing a ton of players back, and they add Donovan Clay. Remains to be seen whether or not Donovan Clay will be eligible immediately for Missouri State. Well, the NCAA has basically said you can transfer and be immediately eligible. There are conference-to-conference transfer rules, and the Missouri Valley Conference has one, so Valpo could block it if they wanted to. Part of me thinks that's a part of karma you don't want any part of, and we'll see from there. So I want to shift focus now away from basketball per se and onto the lives of these guys. And to that end, I want to talk about Zion Morgan. One of my great regrets of the season was toward the end of the year, I did an interview with Zion Morgan for a feature story, and it was so good. And I was going to use the audio for a podcast later on down the line, and I just never got to it. And then I thought, I'll use it next year as maybe a season preview, kind of the story about Zion Morgan. And then he was going to come back. He was going through workouts with the team. And then kind of abruptly, at least it looked abruptly, he decided not to come back. And so I reached out to Zion, particularly after Monday morning. He put out a tweet that said, "Dear basketball, thank you." And it was a letter to basketball. And for simply contextual purposes, I'm going to read you this letter right now because I want you to know what it says. Obviously, this is my voice with Zion's words, so it doesn't really go great. But then you're going to hear, because we're going to reference this letter a lot, and we never got around to, during the interview, having Zion read the letter. So I'm going to read it right now, and then we're going to jump into this interview with Zion Morgan, which I really do think is a powerful, powerful interview. Dear basketball, I don't even know where to begin. We've spent 15 great years together. We've been all over the world together, on airplanes, buses, trains, and AAU vans together. We've been everywhere, but our favorite place to go was to the gym at 6 a.m. Hearing you bounce on the court, swish through the net, hit off the backboard, and roll away to the point where I would have to run and chase you sometimes shows the true love I really had for you. Unfortunately, that love has diminished over the years, and it's not you, it's me. As I began to get older, I began to look at you differently. Having fun began to turn into time for work. I began to feel like you were using me. I began to feel manipulated. I began to feel like I worked for you. I began to feel like an employee. I began to realize that I was playing a part in the system. As I realized all of this, I began to understand that that system and I do not share the same values. I felt like this for a while now, but I feared what people would think because we've been together for so long, but I have no fear anymore. I know the truth. I feel the truth. I see the truth, so I have to speak the truth. Kids I grew up with are dying every day. Neighborhoods I grew up in are trashed, and you have been distracting me from that for the last few years. I will always love you, but I no longer love what comes with being with you. It's time for me to be free, and in order to do that, I have to leave you behind. Thank you for making me a man. Thank you for bringing me thousands, if not millions, of life experiences. Thank you for bringing so many people into my life. Thank you for bringing me to where I am now. Thank you for showing me the world. Thank you for showing me the truth. Thank you for everything. I've given you my all for the last 15 years of my life, but now it's time for me to do what I always dreamed of doing since I was younger, and that's help the communities and people around me. Sincerely, Zion Morgan. I'm trying to figure out how to refer to you. You're Zion Morgan. And for a long time, I would say things like joined now by Valpo basketball player Zion Morgan or UNLV basketball player Zion Morgan. It would always have that title, basketball player Zion Morgan, in front of you. One of the reasons why I wanted to have you on today is because you're Zion Morgan. You're not basketball player Zion Morgan. And I don't know if the term broke up with basketball is the phrase. You did use the "it's not you, it's me," which is a famous breakup thing. But Zion, you wrote a letter to basketball, and I want to start there. And there's a whole bunch of other things I want to ask about. But it's May 5th, 2021, and basketball is in the rearview mirror for you, and you've probably been playing for your entire life. What's this feeling like right now?
I mean, you put it in perfect words. When you refer to me as Zion Morgan instead of the Valpo basketball player or the UNLV basketball player, that empowers me a little bit. You know, I know who I am, but now that I took this next step and I'm doing truly what I believe in, it's proof in the pudding right there. You referred to me as Zion Morgan, and that's who I am. So, yeah, I feel good right now, man. I feel great, and I'm happy to do this. I'm happy to talk it out with you.
There seemed to be a time where you were coming back next year.
Yeah.
I know you were going through workouts. It was kind of like a best kept secret that you and Aaron were going through workouts. Aaron had come out and said, yes, I'm going to be back. Obviously Nick is moving on. Malik is moving on, but there was a moment there where it felt like you were coming back. And I think a lot of people were excited about that, especially, you know, the way the season closed with just some really good output there and everything like that. Was there like a aha moment where you're like, no, I'm not coming back? Or was it a Valpo thing? Was it a bigger thing in your brain beyond that?
Really, I've been, like I said in the letter, I've been feeling like this. I mean, if you ask my mom, since I was about 5 years old, I always had big dreams of just uplifting communities, using who I am and my energy to, you know, talk to people and, like I said, uplift communities. So there was no small thing. There was nothing. Now, I will say there were events that throughout my time here that have led throughout my time playing basketball in general as I grew up that made me realize that this is a business, and this business does not benefit my cause or what I believe in to the fullest effect. It does not. It just doesn't. And it kind of, as I started to do research myself on, you know, different numbers in the history of me and my people and things like that, I started to quickly realize that how much of a business this really was. I'm gonna try to, you know, keep it at that. But I started to realize how much of a business it was and how much I was playing a part in the system, even though I have a small part in it. I'm at Valpo. Valpo is no, you know, Duke. This is not the NBA or anything like that. But I understood that I was playing a small part in a big system that I did not as I started to do research and things started happening in the world, I didn't want to be a part of it no more. And I had to write that letter like that because I do have a deep relationship with basketball. The game of basketball has brought me and you together. The reason I can have this conversation, I have this platform, is because of the game of basketball. But as I grew older and started to see what that game of basketball was doing to communities that I come from, and I had to step away. And a quick example of that, you asked, did any small thing happen? Nothing small. Like I said, events continue to build up. But I remember going to Chicago about 3 weeks ago when I was still working out with the team, and just seeing the neighborhoods and just seeing how much trash was on the ground, potholes everywhere, closed down buildings, the violence. Everybody hears of the violence. And then I compared that to Valpo, and I was just like, nah, something's not adding up here. Why am I putting my all into this when the place I come from and the people that love me and enjoyed who I was, and they tell me, oh yeah, go make it out, people are dying every day where I'm coming from. So it's literally a war zone, and I'm coming over here to make the best for me. Nah, I want to make the best for my people, and I want to make the best for my communities. And this business in fact, it's hurting our people, as simple to put it, but I had to step away from it. And like I said, it wasn't the game of basketball. It was the business that comes with being with basketball. So,
you talk about the violence, and it comes on the heels of 2 young men, basketball players in the city of Chicago. One's going to Loyola, one's going to Murray
I just
State.
heard about this. Yeah.
Both hit in a drive-by shooting. Yeah. I think sounds like they're both going to be okay. Sounds like I think they're both going to progress, but obviously, and this is always like a unique thing, right? Like I am from the city of Milwaukee, but I am from the south side of Milwaukee. I've certainly seen a little bit in my day, but not nearly what goes on in the north side of Milwaukee or the south side of Chicago or anything like that. Everybody, I think, that has come from Chicago onto the Valpo team has seen violence in their lives, knows of people as equally as talented as they are who got caught up in either dead or other things. Does that, and I think about, and these are names from the past, Darian Walker, Levante Doherty, Javon Freeman Liberty, guys that have come from the city, you, Nick, Jabril, different stuff like that. Like, when you would go out and when you're in Valpo, was it an uneasy feeling of like, almost like, and I don't know how to say this any other way, of you hear of like survivor's guilt of like an accident that happens, and like maybe I was supposed to be on that plane and it went down and it didn't get me, but it got other people. Like, did it feel like that at all?
It's definitely that. And I think the big thing is it's a sense of safety here. It's a sense of belonging. It's a sense of, not even thinking about that. And I just had to compare the two cities. And I want people to understand. I know I post some things sometimes that could be borderline, a color thing, or this is no color thing. This is a system thing. And this system has, unfortunately, affected my peoples. And it's very obvious. This city is very well put together. It's very safe. But where the people that come from and the people that's making money for this program, and it's not just the Chicago thing. I'm sure Malik is from Maryville. This goes on in Maryville. I know one of his friends have passed away. Rest in peace to Jay Wood. I believe that's his name, one of the young brother's name. But this goes on everywhere. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a common Black thing. This is a common underclassed, underappreciated type of thing. And it's not underappreciated. See, I don't want to even make it I'm sorry I actually said that. We undervalue ourselves. That is the problem. There is nobody going in Chicago making these guys pull these guns, pull these weapons out. But the problem is the leaders that can lead and help that, they go away to these neighborhoods like Valpo, they go to the Dukes, they go all the way over the place to make it out of the hood, when in reality, we need to keep these people in the hood, in our environments, to try to help and uplift it. So I just posted something on Twitter. Isn't the goal, I'm sure you've heard it, you're an interviewer, isn't the goal in the NCAA, if you're a basketball player, to make it to the NBA, right? That's every kid's dream. There's a 0.03% chance that you're going to make it to the NBA. So where I'm from, if this is driven, ball is life, if this is driven into the subconscious of people that don't really think they amount to anything but basketball or rapping or something like this, if this is driven in your brain, if you don't make it, you're going to end up going back to these treacherous environments.
I want to cut you off for a second because
yeah.
I actually, so I think people know this isn't a surprise to people. And if it pisses people off, I'm sorry, but I teach journalism classes at VU and I'm an educator. And every once in a while I see the basketball guys come into my classes. That's fine. I just have a firm separation line there. But there was a kid a couple of years ago, 10 years ago or so. I don't need to get into specific years or anything like that. Kid from Chicago, got to college because he could play basketball, right? Couldn't get in anywhere if he couldn't play basketball. That's my thought, right? But hey, look, and if he wasn't coming to Valpo, he was going to Loyola, he was going to UIC, he was going somewhere, right? Basketball paved that way. The day that he graduated, his mother grabbed me, hugged me, didn't let go for 5 minutes and said, "You have changed my son's life." I mean, I cried my eyes out at that, right? Okay, fast forward now. I don't know what he's doing. And like, okay, so we changed his life. Basketball changed his life. He didn't go pro. Wasn't good enough to go pro. Bounced around a couple of things for a little bit, right? In terms of, like, oh, maybe get a tryout here, probably pay his own way to fly across the country to do this or everything like that. Basketball chews you up and spits you out. And now I think to myself, okay, the education's great, but like, what's next? And I don't know what he's doing right now. And that, to me, I mean, I think back to that moment where the mom gave me a hug and said, "You changed my family's life." And I don't know that I did that much at all. His ability to hit a 3-pointer in traffic paved the way to do that. And then he put in the work, and that's just, but you're right. Like, what happens next? Derrick Rose living top of the Trump Tower. He got out, Jabari Parker got out. Like, what happens next? And that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. My thing is why, that's exactly my point. Why is there a make it out of the hood? Why? Think about these circumstances. And then even look at the numbers. I think I looked at the numbers. 78% of NCAA athletes are African-American. The NCAA is a billion-dollar industry. Some of that money should be going back to these environments to help out, period, point blank, period. So you think about the exploitation of African-Americans in this system, and it's ridiculous. Like you said, the man probably couldn't even read, but he can shoot a 3-pointer, and that's the exact reason. And Valpo is a good school, right? How do you get in Valpo? You can't take on the education because they want him to come shoot a basketball for him. And once he's done shooting a basketball for him, I hope he's doing something well, you know what I mean? But I'm sure he's most likely back in his environment, which is going to chew him out and spit him out somewhere that's not going to be nice. So it's a system that, man, I put respect when it's due. And whoever created this system, respect to you. But it's time to overthrow the system, in my opinion. And that's why I had to write that letter, just to show people the truth. And the truth may hurt to some people. But the fact that you can open up and speak dialogue to situations that you've seen, a kid come there and shoot a basketball, and now he leaves and you don't know where he is. But I guarantee you the mom meant you changed his life just because they got you. The fact that he could graduate from this university and he left that situation that he came from is the reason you changed his life. You know what I mean? There would be no change my life if he came from a great environment, went to Valpo to play basketball, got a great education, and then did something for the community. But that's not the point, though. They want him to shoot a basketball. They don't care if he come from the bottom of a garbage can. As long as he can shoot a basketball, we're going to take him in. And that's where my problem lays.
And I think it's, to be clear, like I said, this is if he didn't go to Valpo, he was going to Butler, he was going to USC, he was going to whatever. Like, this is at least for me, I'm not ragging on Valpo. I'm saying this is the system. I want to ask you about a tweet that you put, actually a couple tweets that you put out. Fraternity Zemo is your Twitter handle. There's a lot of transferring going on right now in college basketball. 9 guys from your team this past year are not going to return for different reasons, right? I mean, we've got you, who's stepping away. Nick had a situation that didn't work out at Valpo. He's going to Western Carolina. Malik is going to get out of Northwest Indiana for the first time in his life and go to Western Michigan. That's awesome. Daniel is going to get to go down to the land of the best food in the country in New Orleans. That's awesome. Donovan interesting case, moving to Missouri State.
Mhm.
Gonna see Valpo a couple times a year. Let's circle those dates on the calendar. Jacob is going to Lipscomb. Stephen Helm's going to Indiana Tech. This guy's moving all over the place. Sigurd, I'm not sure where he's going to end up.
Yeah.
You have a tweet here. All I see is a bunch of brothers going from one plantation to another. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm the old 40-year-old white guy here. I hear the word plantation. I start to get, the hair rises on the back of my neck a little bit. Like, ooh, he said a word that, but that's what you said. And obviously then right after that, there's a big question about the Creighton coach talking about plantation and everything like that. 1,400 people are in the transfer portal right now. Moving from one program to another. You've got another P word for it, plantation. Can you expound upon that a little bit at all?
Well, it's kind of like exactly what we said. These people, this system is used to get these brothers, majority, 78% of the athletes are African-American, period. That's a fact. That's not my opinion. That is a fact. 78% of African-Americans are NCAA athletes. And majority of the coaches are rich, white guys. Now, this is not a color thing. This is what it is. I'm stating facts here. These are all great people that's leaving this program. You know what I mean? Donovan, Malik, these are people that didn't put their heart, soul, tears, and blood in, and they're leaving. So that make me think a little bit. You know what I mean? And then where are you? You going to this great situation, but brother, you're going to another situation that's going to be exactly like this. Either you fit in, or like you said, you get chewed up and you get spit out. Period. Now I can get deep into that. I can get real deep into that because you know what I'm saying. Back in the day, Mandingo fighting was the exact same thing. There were slave masters and there were black people that fought for entertainment, and whoever died, and whoever won, they won, and they could survive. All that's going on now is the exact same thing. Yeah, we're athletes. That's in our blood. We're strong guys. You know what I mean? That we're athletes. So because we can make $1 for this system, they're going to do whatever it takes, and they're going to allow us to think, you know what I mean, we're as free as possible, when in reality we're not. And that's just the facts in it. And it can be proven by this guy that you said went to Valpo. He comes there, the man don't know how to do anything but play basketball, I'm assuming, basically. He leaves the university. Now what is he doing? But guess what? The university made money off of him. And they can say all that they want, that, oh, yeah, we loved him. Oh, yeah, he was the fans loved him, all that. But what is that going to do for this brother? What is that going to do for his family? What is that going to do for his children? It's not going to do anything. And that's a repeated cycle of everybody. Every African-American is getting chewed up and spit out in this system. And this is another thing I had to realize. Once I realized that African-Americans weren't going to HBCUs, and why aren't the top athletes going to HBCUs? Because they don't think they're going to get the same exposure and all that. That's a brainwash right there. That's the system making you think if you go play for your own people, you're the HBCUs, you won't be able to make it to the NBA and all that. When in fact, last time I checked, if LeBron James, John Morant, Zion Williamson, the list goes literally on and on and on. If they go to these HBCUs, these will be the next Dukes. But the system doesn't want that. Or at least that's what it looks like in my opinion. It's driven to make you think that if you want to go to the NBA and all this, you have to go to these Dukes. You have to go to where some of my brothers on the team is transferring to. You know what I mean? So when I said the plantation thing, all I was saying was, me and these guys have deep talks that I'm going to keep, in private, but we have deep talks about life, guys tearing up in the locker room from J.O. This is not a color thing, from J.O. to Malik to Saki, all of us, you know what I mean? Where we feel like we've been used, period, point blank, period, by this system. And guys are leaving, they feeling like they're breaking their chains and they're leaving and they're going to these other universities. And unfortunately, they have to do what they have to do. But in my opinion, there needs to be some other way, and there needs to be some fixing of this system, because brothers are leaving and going to systems where either you make it to the NBA or you go overseas, which is also making you leave your environment, making you leave these hood, treacherous environments, and it's just allowing them to die off and kill off. Or, you know what I mean? Or you're going, or they shipping you somewhere else. So when I said the plantation thing, all I was saying, where you're going to work for somebody else that says all they want, that they want the best interest for you, when in reality, they just want you because you can make $1 for them. And once you're done, you're leaving.
And I want to ask you this. So, I mean, there's a lot of people out there who are pointing at Valpo right now and saying, oh my God, this is a culture problem. This is a problem. Is it Matt? Is it the school? Is it whatever? You've transferred, right? Like you've you've been at one place,
Mhm.
you went to another,
Mhm.
you had a stop in between at Wabash. You have been the epitome of like, is the grass greener on the other side?
Mhm.
So as somebody who has made that move, and again, I know obviously keeping those conversations private, but when guys like Daniel or Malik or Nick or Jo or anybody says, I got to go, Valpo's the problem.
Yeah.
It sounds like, and maybe Valpo is the problem,
Mhm.
but it also sounds like the system
Mhm.
is a bigger part. So from your experience, is it the system or is it a specific thing?
I'm going to have to go to system, period. Because at the end of the day, I have conversations with Lodick as well sometimes where, I mean, it's all driven by money. He has to win or he gets fired, point blank, period. So that could come across a little weird when guys are just leaving and we're losing or something. You know what I mean? It's a fine line. It's definitely the system is what I'm saying, but it's a line drawn there and it's affecting everybody. You know what I mean? So this system is breaking up guys, making them point the finger, making you think Valpo is the problem when no, this is a greater system that's driven off of, I got to keep saying you're saying, because it was a great saying, chewing people up and spinning them out, period. Like I'm going to leave here and I plan on, helping my community and eventually leaving, bringing this whole thing up. But say I didn't, if I left here, nobody would hear about me from Valpo in the next 2 years, hell, in the next year, nobody would. And that's just how the system goes. This is driven off of the dollar bill that in fact is supposed to benefit everybody. And it doesn't, it does not.
I want to ask an interesting question here. On the flip side, and you're older, you're 23 now?
23. Mm-hmm.
As you said, Matt has made his livelihood and he makes money off of it. Let's not get it twisted. And he came up through the system too. He played at Stanford. His livelihood is dependent upon the output of 18 to 22-year-old individuals.
Yeah.
Right. And I think about this as a teacher sometimes when I think about like, okay, I can teach and teach and teach and teach, and either I'm not a good teacher or they're not listening to me.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times this year. I mean, the record wasn't great. And sometimes it's a freak situation like that bullshit call at the end of the Loyola game, which I'll say it was garbage. You guys were the better team that day. You should have won that game. But, guys struggled, and for the lack of, I hope I don't really come off as an asshole here, but like Malik struggled at 3-point line. Donovan shot 20% from the 3-point line. Daniel was a little off, Jo was getting, Gage Prim ate him for breakfast 5 times, like in a row. Like when you see stuff like that happen, is it a thing like, oh man, as the coaches, like we got to win. And if these guys can't do it, we got to find other people that do it. If as the players, is it like, if I can't succeed here, I got to go somewhere else and do it. I guess, who does that fall on? Is it a collective?
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, I think it falls on the entire system. I'm gonna just throw it back there, right? Because this should be a family environment. When I first started playing basketball, even though my father was the coach for me, but my father was not no guy that's just gonna roll the ball out and say, let me go. I had to earn everything. And in fact, I had to earn it 20 times harder than anybody else. And on top of that, I was the best player on the team and I still had to earn it 50 times more. So it's the family environment. My pops would, and this is back in these treacherous environments. I have friends that grew up with no moms, with no fathers, that grew up in the streets, and they looked up to my father like a father. And we changed some people's lives from this. So it's the family environment. You know what I mean? It gets to a point where I got older and it turned to a business. Now he's my coach. When in reality, back in the day when I was having fun, not even with my father, all the way up in high school, my high school coach, shout out to Coach Marlo Finner, a real king, that was a role model to me. That was a guy that would pull me out of class sometimes just to sit down and talk with me to tell me how to succeed in life, tell me how to be a man. And in this system, it's nothing but basketball. and that affects guys. And we've talked sometimes about how, man, since you brought up the plantation word, I'm gonna bring up the slave word then, might as well. We brought up times where you feel like a slave. I'm coming in here every day just to shoot basketball, just to get out. Just to shoot basketball, just to get out. Can we there has to be some type of, a wise man once told me I should be able to run through a brick wall for my coach. And I think a lot of times in a lot of instances around the country, the best teams will run through a big wall for their coach. And the worst teams will not run through a brick wall for their coach. So whoever the blame is to put on that, you can point the fingers. Whoever listening can point the fingers there. But it has to be some type of family environment to the fact of this is not just basketball we're playing here. I'm a human being. I'm a man. And on top of all of that, you got African-American males that deal with a lot coming from where they come from. So back to the plantation thing, you're going to these universities where people cannot relate to you. You know what I mean? Even like you say, is there kind of like a guilt conscious when I'm on campus? I wouldn't say that, but I will say, I know for a fact I'm looking around and I don't see anybody that looks like me. I will say that. So that does play a little part in my subconscious where I'm like, is this right? Is this a right thing? Or am I just here to play basketball? So you take somebody completely out of their environment just to do one thing, it feels like a job. And that can weigh on somebody that used to love the game. People want to go out there and get injured and hurt themselves and win the game and get bruised and all. They want to do that for the game. But once you ended up doing that for the business, you take away all the love for the game.
I want to ask about the payment of the business side of things is the scholarship, right?
Yeah.
Ability to walk out of college when you're done without. I mean, you've gotten free education, I guess, for that. Now, I also know for a fact from being close to the system, from watching it, it's a job, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I know this, if I'm going to give you I'm not a coach, but if I'm going to give you a scholarship, if I'm going to pay for your schooling, this is what you're going to do for me. Right? That's how the system works, right? You say you sit in the classroom, you look around, you see people who don't look like you. I would imagine there are people that sit in that classroom and look at you and say, that guy gets to go to school for free because he plays a game. They don't understand all of what it takes to play the game at this level. You said 0.3% make it to the NBA. It's
0.03.
0.03, sorry. 0.03 make it to the NBA. The percentage isn't that much higher of those people who earn a Division I full ride scholarship.
Yeah.
So, I mean, can you expound upon that a little bit? Just the idea that I mean, it feels like a job, and to a degree, it is. I mean, you're not getting money, but you're getting the scholarship, which is the equivalent of money to some degree.
Yeah.
I feel there's the famous stories of the basketball players like Chris Webber at Michigan, who his jersey's being sold for $100 and he can't afford food. Now we find out later on he was getting money under the table. But talk about what getting the scholarship means, and did you get to take advantage of the education side of that thing, or was it basketball practice game?
Well, you got to ask yourself, who's this education for? What am I learning? I'm at these schools, and what am I learning? I'm at Valpo, you know what I mean? Free education, hoorah. Now, this is just me talking, and I'm speaking my truth. So if anybody's listening, you know what I mean? I'm speaking my truth. But what am I learning? I literally remember being in one of these classes, my political science class. I won't say the professor's name, but he knows who he is. They gave out surveys, and one of the questions on the survey said Black people would be better off if they weren't lazy and made excuses. So when you look at things like that, you start to open your eyes and say, okay, what part of this game, is this basketball I'm here playing, or am I a slave here? Am I here just to work? So when I look around in that class and I see people that don't look like me, they're getting an education that benefits them. I'm getting an education to do what? Majority of the time, I'm sure, I haven't looked up the numbers, but from talking and being everywhere, I'm 99% sure majority of athletes are getting what? A sports management degree or a business degree because it's easy. So think about that. And how many guys have you talked to that say they don't even really care about the education? They're here to play basketball. I know I was one of those guys, and I'm just being honest. I'm speaking my truth because I didn't even really care about the sports management part of it. But that shows you what in that defense, the advisors and everybody, they try to push freshmen and all of that into that role. Hey, these are some majors you could possibly take: sports management, business, this is all stuff that revolves around sports.
You see it with football all the time. I mean, you hear these guys, that's again, you talk about the system, you talk about that's how it works. And again, I think it's clear that this is while we're talking on a Valpo basketball podcast, that this is a thing in a lot of different places. I remember a kid transferred from Iowa State a long time ago. Corey Johnson.
Mm.
And I remember I was asking him about his classes he was taking, and he told me, he said, I get to pick my classes at Valpo. At Iowa State, they just told me where to show up and what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been a couple of guys like that that have that come from bigger schools that it's just different there.
Yeah.
So,
hold on, deeper on that though. And education costs so much, but in my opinion, this education is not for people that look like me. It's not. And if it is, and if it's close to that, it's to keep you in that system. Like I said, I'm 100% sure they had Corey Joseph, or is that his name? Corey
Johnson. Yeah.
Johnson. I'm 100% sure they had him at Iowa State in some type of just sports management class. You know what I mean? Some in business. Like I said, they say business is the easiest major. They throw you in these classes and say, oh yeah, we'll give you a free education. You work for that. But no, you're here to play basketball, brother. This education is not going to benefit you at all. And it could keep you in the system, but majority of people get these degrees and all that. And what do? They go be a basketball coach somewhere. And unless you're a D1 college basketball coach, and if you look like me, there aren't too many head D1 basketball coaches that look like me, which is another thing and another topic. But you go into a high school job or a middle school job, and you don't even need a degree for those things. You can go. So at that point, you start to realize, what did I even get an education in? What have I learned at Valpo? You know what I mean? Other than opening my eyes and seeing what really goes on behind the scenes with all of this, I haven't learned anything. I got to meet great people, and I got to meet and have different life experiences, but this education is not geared for my success, period. It's to keep me in this system that's subsequently hurting my people back home, period.
You have done a lot of music while
Mm-hmm.
you've been here. I've listened to a little bit here and there when it pops up on social media.
Appreciate it.
It's I always love to. One of the things that I've always enjoyed is again finding out who the people are outside of basketball.
Yeah.
And I will also be the first person to tell you this. And I thought about this a lot last summer in the wake of George Floyd and the wake of Blake and all that. That like, I thought to myself, I don't really know the athletes that I cover. I go a little bit, but like I don't know. I mean, I and really it spun off of a lot of Daniel's Sackey's social media posts and stuff I was saying. I finally texted him at one point and I just said, Daniel, I have a platform. I know you do too. If you ever want to say anything on mine, like and another part of it too was like, I was on a Zoom call with all the Missouri Valley Conference beat reporters in the middle of the summer when all this was going on. I remember looking around and I'm like, 40-year-old white guy, 40-year-old white guy, 50-year-old white guy, 40-year-old white woman. And I'm just like, well, am I part of the problem? And I was like, I love basketball. I love writing about basketball. I love every aspect of it, but I stopped playing basketball in 8th grade. I don't know. Like, I'll give you an example. Like when you guys go to the free throw line, you guys huddle as a team, right? I have no idea what you do in those huddles. Like, there's so much about basketball I don't know. And I think to myself, the guys that do know it, guys that look like you, don't end up being the writers for it. Don't go, and so, and again, I'm bouncing around a couple different things. You just put out an interesting tweet about music, because I know you're into rap. If you didn't rap and you didn't play basketball, what are you? And that's, I think that's the tweet you just put out, like we're 5 minutes before we started. I guess, can you expound upon that a little bit?
Yeah, it's like what we say. Think about that. Back to the percentage, 78% of African Americans are NCAA. No, I'm sorry. Don't want that clickbaited. 78% of NCAA athletes are African Americans.
Yes.
But the people that run these organizations are billionaires, millionaires, and none of them are African Americans. So it's very clear to me. It's very clear to me. Even we could take it to the NBA level. Majority of my favorite players look just like me, Now, Luka Doncic and all them, they're pretty good. Also, like I said, there's no color thing. I'm just stating the facts. The LeBron James and all them, they in that small percentage. But then again, I always look at like the coaches of them, and there have been there have been thousands of NBA greats that have retired. And I look at the coaches of these NBA players, and I look at them all the time, and they don't look like me. The coaching staff does not look like me. But granted, there's always at least one African-American on that coaching staff. At least one. Shout out to Coach Rob, not to put him out there, but at least one everywhere. You have to.
And I would imagine the stuff that ends up on his plate is far more than basketball.
100%. And just think about that. Think about that. His job is not here to you're not here to be a basketball coach. He is, no disrespect. I mean, you are, obviously. That's what your contract, that's what you're here for, business. But come on now, open your eyes. You're not here for that. You're here to talk to all of us about our problems and what we're going through at this PWR, what we're doing, how's back home feel and all of this. So that's what I call throwing the bone. And I've had talks with a lot of people about this. So yeah, like I said about the rapper basketball, yeah, it's either you're doing either of those. You can't even I don't know anybody that has a record label or owns a basketball or a sports league that looks like me and is bringing in a good, consistent amount of money that looks like me. And that adds up to when I look at my community, nobody owns anything yet. We're wearing the Nikes, we're wearing the Jordans. We want to be like LeBron James, but that percent is so small. In reality, you can't be LeBron James. Everybody can't be LeBron James. So if you don't make it in that window, the system basically tell you, go back to your hood, go back to your treacherous environment. And, we don't really care for you. But yet they're making money for these systems.
Last night, I had the pleasure of watching a Instagram live video with you and was it your older brother?
Yeah.
And your mother.
Yeah.
You guys do this every week?
Every Tuesday. Yep. Tuesday talks to my mom. My mom started it.
Tuesday with my sons, I think it was.
Yeah.
And she, it was interesting. I wanted to watch and pay attention because, again, I thought it would help with this a little bit.
Yeah.
You talked about the first time you got a pair of Nikes.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave you elite socks and the first pair of Nikes. And I think you said last night that you wore those shoes out to the bone.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a Nike sweatshirt right now. Swoosh right here.
Yeah.
Is Nike part of this?
100%. 100%. Now, I don't want to cut off anybody's endorsement deals or anything, but 100%. When people where I'm from are killing each other over Nikes and they continue to raise the price or they continue to sell these shoes, they're part of the problem. If we could protest over police brutality, and I put quotes on that, we can talk about that another day because that's another illusion they want you to believe is real so that you can continue to kill yourselves and other people that look like you back home. But when kids want to be the LeBron James, you put these athletes that look just like us, you put these athletes on a pedestal and they wear your product and they selling your product and they promoting your product. When you do that, you want these not these 2-year-olds, you want these 13-year-olds, you want these 15-year-olds to buy this product, right? I'm sure if I do the numbers, and I have done the numbers before, I don't know the specifics, but the majority of the dollar that Nike makes comes from the African-American community, period. Now, do the math yet again. These African-American communities are not benefiting off of purchasing Nikes. They are not. And that's another reason I had to leave the system. Valpo is sponsored by Nike, and I'm playing a part in it. I'm getting the new Nikes. I know that I'm this poster child. I'm this puppet for the system so that people can continue to kill themselves and try to die for ballless life so that they can make it out of their environments. This is the whole game the system plays for people that look like me to try to make it out and people that can't make it out to stay down there.
It's just it's just a fascinating thing when you think about the shoe game and how embedded that is in the entire situation.
Another thing. Think about Jordans. Jordan's African American. You know what I mean? And probably one of the best athletes of all time. He's a billion. I'm sure he's a billionaire, right?
Oh yeah. In his couch cushions, he's a billionaire.
Right, easily, right? I'm sure his city and where he comes from is still a very treacherous environment. Because I know my city is. Chicago dies and kills people for these mics. Look at LeBron, Kobe, all of these people look just like me. Why aren't we benefiting off of what they are making? I know Kyrie made a statement. He said Kobe should be the logo of the NBA. Now, you can think you disagree or agree, but I respect his opinion and I agree with it. You know what I mean? Kobe has done a lot for this game. He's made a lot of money for this game. And I just, in my opinion, now I didn't watch Jerry West play, but hey, the Mamba, come on now. They won't do that because the system is ran by that.
We're starting to wind down here. I mean, you've given us 40 minutes of your time. I got one or two more questions.
Yeah.
Speaking of older NBA players, and a guy that's evolved his career, Charles Barkley. It's interesting because at 41, I know what Charles Barkley means to me. He was a guy who was He was a brash, undersized, great rebounder who has now become a oversized, loud commentator.
Yeah, yeah.
Charles Barkley once famously said, "I am not a role model."
Mm.
He made a point of saying that he should not be a role model. That parents need to be role models, that other people need, that basketball players, that he does not feel like he should be a role model. Now, there's one thing of saying that, hey, I play a game for a living, I shouldn't be a role model. There's another part of like willfully pushing that off, like, I'm going to go do whatever.
Yeah.
Don't you're like, I didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
When you think about this, right? Like you talked about platform, basketball, rap, whatever. How will Zion Morgan be a role model going forward? Now that you're, because again, basketball has given a platform to be a role model in a way. I don't care if it's in your city. I don't care if it's the basketball camps at Valpo, the little ball boys that are running around the court. They see you, they look at you, they want to be you, right?
Yeah.
Taking basketball away, how will you be a role model going forward?
Well, my future plans are to move back to Chicago soon. My parents have a school, so I'll be probably working full time with them. Like you said earlier about my Twitter handle, I've started an organization called Fraternity, where I will be speaking this truth and trying to unplug a lot of people from this system, and just showing them that what their worth really is. I have a lot of goals ahead in my mind, like free breakfast things, cleaning services so that we can clean up some of these neighborhoods that look terrible. The list goes on and on. I'm gonna try to keep it under the surface for now so that it can happen and I don't get this shot down. But yeah, I'm not gonna even call out that I'm gonna be a role model. You know what I mean? I know my words speak value, and I know a lot of people feel the truth and understand what I'm saying. So I'm not even gonna categorize myself as a role model. If kids look up to me, fine, that's great. If they don't, that's cool. But all I can do is speak my truth, and I'm gonna continue to speak my truth. And now in the future, I will be working full time with my parents, trying to help the community and help the kids know that you don't have to, this is the only route. It's not basketball or rap, drugs or liquor. This is not our culture. The system tries to push this as our culture. I posted on my Instagram, the NBA is sponsored by Hennessy. Hennessy is the number one drink in the Black community. That should tell you a lot right there. That should tell you a lot right there. So my big goal is to just unplug people and make them understand that you matter. You don't need to beg the system to give you anything. We can keep money within our own community, and we can build our own communities up to the point where we can all be free. So that's my goals for the future, just to actually be hands-on now and not talk from the inside. It's time to really start doing. I've been doing a lot of talking. The last 2 years, I do a lot of talking. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Now it's time to really do.
And I wanted to ask, in these last 2 years, have there been fond memories of your time at Valpo? What will you take away from the experience? Or maybe was the fondest memory hitting enter on that letter that you sent? Yeah. What stands out? Maybe from on the court, in the locker room, whatever. Yeah. Will you come away from this place, albeit part of the system, with good fond memories?
Well, of course, in my opinion, all experiences are great experiences, no matter bad or good. There is no, my pops always teaches us in this organization, there is no bad or good. And when it comes to life experiences, if you learn from them, there's only great experiences, period, point blank, period. So while I come from this situation, is coming in as a boy. I was a part of the system, and I really thought that I wanted to do this. And I thought I wanted to go play a part and work hard and be in the NBA and do this. I wanted the freshest Nikes. I wanted all of this. You know what I mean? And then I grew into a man. And then I didn't just grow into a man. I grew into a king, and I understood who I was. So the greatest, benefit and the greatest experience I will have from this is just being free, being able to grow and look myself in the mirror and saying, who do you want to be? Who do you want your legacy to be? Do you want to be a part of this when you know you don't believe in the majority of what goes on here? Or do you want to put your own jersey on and start playing for your own team and helping your community? So I learned a lot here, man. I grew into a man and I saw the truth, and I'm forever thankful for Valpo University. I'm forever thankful for every life experience I've had gained from here.
Zion Morgan doesn't need any other name attached to it, not Valpo basketball player, not aspiring rap star, anything like that. Zion Morgan stands on his own. Thank you very much for the time that you gave to us today. And look, it might not be on the basketball court, but I'll certainly be paying attention to your journey the rest of the way through.
Appreciate you, P.O. Appreciate everything you've done.